take your seats, please.
Thank you.
And I think I'll just start. I think the first order of business is that this particular board has not met in a while. So I think it probably is proper to have, well, one, let's do roll call, just in general.
Sure. Myself, Ruth Thompson, Tim McCormick, Carl Zimmerman, John Villa via Zoom, Jason, is it Check?
Present, that's me.
Ed Betts.
Ed Betts is not here.
Got it.
So do we have, so there's a board of 5. Do we have at least 3 for a quorum?
We do.
Okay, so I would say we do have a quorum, so then the board can proceed. Because if we did not have a quorum, I would say we'd have to postpone today's proceeding. Now what I would recommend is, again, because the board has not met in a while, I think probably like annually you would elect a chairperson. So I would ask that one of you nominate someone, maybe second a nomination, and then vote on who should be the chairperson. And that vote would also include Mr. John Villa. As he's also a board member, he should also vote. So can he hear us or can he speak? Okay.
He's gone.
Yeah. Mr. Villa, do we have confirmation we can hear you?
Okay, is that better?
Yes, at least I can hear you. Okay. So do you understand what I just said?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I'm going to leave it to the board. Is there anyone who would like to make a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Ruth.
Okay, there's one for, does anyone want to second that nomination? Okay, we have 2, a first and a second
I'll
for
second
nominating.
that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Ruth as chairperson. Now I believe we would need to have a vote. So if everyone could
All right.
vote out loud.
Yes, I'll do it.
Yes.
Okay.
2 other guesses?
Yes.
I know it seems ridiculous, but.
Yes.
No, it's okay. It's
Okay, so now I think it's official that Ms. Thomas is the chairperson, at least for this particular meeting. So I think we can then get to, let me on camera, I see. Get to, maybe read what does, get to the actual agenda.
Do you want me to do that?
Yes.
My first official duty. The new business, Palermo Realty would like relief from the property maintenance code in regards to the violations in multiple units at their property located at 408 West 9th Street. Palermo Realty believes their building should be grandfathered and the current codes should not apply.
Okay, with that, I would say since Palermo filed the appeal, typically the person who filed the appeal would go first. So here I'd have, perhaps this would be a good time for the court reporter to swear in everybody at one time, perhaps. Can the court reporter do that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, if you could please, so everyone if they could stand up and raise your right hand and then listen to the court reporter.
Would everyone raise their right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And then just for the record, I'll note that it was Joe Palermo II, Joe Palermo III, Scott Heisenreiter, Mindy Keel, and Donald Sauer all were sworn at the same time. So then I would ask for, normally a procedure, so whoever Mr. Palermo II or Mr. Palermo III, however you guys want to decide who wants to be your presenter perhaps, or? That's fine. Yeah.
Joe Palermo. Is that on? It's green. Okay. Joe Palermo. I guess first, before we discuss technically what's going on, we're not sure what the violations actually are. So if we could take them one at a time, whatever ones we have, and then we can respond to them, but we believe we have an answer for everything.
Okay, well, maybe it would be more prudent for someone from the city to go first, perhaps?
I think that would, if we could do them one at a time, and then if they make their presentation, then we could discuss it,
Okay,
okay?
is the board okay with that?
We're okay.
Does that make more sense? So, is there anyone from the city who would like to volunteer? So, Mr. Palermo, I'll just have you sit down then.
Okay.
So maybe Scott Heisenreiter? You're going to come up? Scott, I'll just, if the board is okay, I have some just kind of preliminary, basic, foundational questions, I would say, about the situation.
Sure.
And then after I would be done questioning, Mr. Heisenreiter would technically still be a witness, so anyone from the board could ask a question if there's something clarified or if you just have a question about it. And then what I would say is only one of you could ask Mr. Heisenreiter some questions. Usually when we have a legal proceeding, there's only one, I would say, spokesperson or questioner for that side. So one of you guys can choose who you want to do that. Does that make sense? That way we're kind of maybe keep it consistent. So, Mr. Heisenreiter, state your name.
Scott Heisenreiter, City of Erie Building Inspector.
And can you state, do you work for the city of Erie?
Correct?
And how many years have you been with the city?
21,
And how many years in your current position?
since June of 2005.
And what are your general job duties?
All construction, residential and commercial within the city.
And does that include enforcing or making sure that buildings that you're involved with follow one of the international codes?
Yes,
Which international code do you enforce? Or
a whole series of codes, International Residential Code, International Building Code.
okay. So now, were you part of the inspection for a property located at 408 West 8th Street?
Yes,
And could you tell us how many units were inspected?
I believe we just inspected 2 units, but we also inspected the basement, which, this was a result of BIU rental inspection.
Yeah, can you maybe tell the board, again, because it's been a while since we met, what is the significance of BIU in this particular
Correct.
situation and why would they be involved?
So BIU is hired as a third-party agency to do all rental inspections. So when you register, they come out and inspect every other year and send correction letter to the owner. If they feel they don't have to make these corrections, or they feel they're grandfathered, they can appeal to the board. They were having myself, a property maintenance inspector, and a fire inspector go out and take another look before that appeal came to this board.
Okay, so in general, for all rental inspections,
Yes.
BIU does the inspections.
Yes,
Now, if the renter passes the inspection, does that come in front of you or any of the other individuals you mentioned?
no,
So if BIU fails the inspection, or says they failed the inspection, is that when it gets referred to you guys?
well, if it fails, they're supposed to make the corrections. They call the rental inspection from BIU back. They will go re-inspect and approve the violations. If they want to appeal it, instead of having every case come in front of the board, they were sending us, a property maintenance, fire inspector, and myself to reaffirm what BIU denied.
Okay, so BIU would make a referral to you guys, and then you guys did your own inspection. Does that kind of sound about correct?
Yeah, well, the owner would appeal it, and as a second layer of inspection, we would go out to reassure what BIU had violations for.
And did you do an inspection, was that June 18th, 2024?
Yes.
And I believe there was paperwork submitted to the board as part of the agenda that there are 4 apartments. Is that correct? In
Yes.
408 West 8th Street.
Correct.
And then specifically, it looks like apartment 2, apartment 4, apartment 5, and apartment 6.
Yes.
Were you part of inspections of all of those apartments? Plus, I believe you referenced the basement.
Yes.
Is there anything I forgot to mention?
I don't believe so.
Okay, if you could, why don't you start with, I guess, apartment 2 and tell the board what are the issues or violations, or however you would like to phrase it.
Well, the 4 apartments do not have ventilation in the bathroom. Does not go directly outside. It's just to have a fan exhaust to the exterior of the building. These do not have that.
Do they have any ventilation?
I believe they have a window, does not go to the outside.
Does that comment apply to just one of the apartments or all 4
All
of the
4.
apartments? So you would say apartment 2, 4, 5, and 6,
Correct.
those bathrooms do not have any proper ventilation.
Correct.
And that would be ventilation of either water or moisture to the outside?
Yes. Bathroom, yes, ventilation.
And could you
Exhaust
tell us
fan.
why that would be an issue? Why that's important?
Mold. You get moisture out of the building. It's required by code to eliminate moisture.
Okay. Was there any, so you talked about the ventilation. What other issues were there in the apartments?
Well, the one apartment just needs a deadbolt. And the other, there's 2 electrical services in the basement that are connected together.
And why don't you talk about the deadbolts? First off, what apartment was that in?
Well, can I have Mindy come up here?
It was apartment 4.
So apartment 4.
Okay. I'll just reference that Mindy Keel did provide an answer. She was sworn in. She could be asked the same question and may testify in a moment. Okay, so apartment 4, and then talk about the electrical systems.
Well, the electrical was only in the basement that was an issue. There's Federal Pacific boxes down there, but 2 of them are connected to the same service. And the tenant apparently is complaining about breakers blowing.
What is a Federal Pacific?
That's
box?
just a brand name of electrical service.
And why is that an issue?
You're not supposed to have interconnected electric from more than one apartment. They're all supposed to be separate, not tied together.
Okay. And for the electric that you just referenced, are they also in units 2, 4, 5, and 6, or are they?
No, they're separate, except one apartment has electric coming off of one other service, and there's issues with it
Okay.
tripping.
Okay. Is there a danger to that, or what would be the exact problem with that?
Well, it's repeated, and since they are Federal Pacific, there's been issues with Federal Pacific across the country. And obviously they can heat up and cause fire, but in that case, the tenant has to have access to that breaker, and repeatedly, ultimately it could cause fire if you keep going down there and resetting it.
Okay, so you would say at its base, these types of boxes are a fire hazard.
When you're interconnected to other, if they're separate services, you're not supposed to be connected together when you have repeatedly tripping and you're overloading the circuits.
I got you. And so as a result, what did you do I guess, on behalf of the city after this? Were the Palermo's notified of what they needed corrected?
Well, they were sent a letter that stated that their appeal through us was denied. That's why we're in front of this board.
Okay. So would you say that these particular violations could be a danger to the tenant?
Well, if there's a fire in the basement, it's a danger to all the tenants. The deadbolt is a security issue that tenants concerned. She said she's had people break in there before. When,
And what would be the concern about, so other than mold, is there anything else with the water, moisture, or mold you want to expound upon?
well, you need to get the moisture out of your bathroom. That's why they make the codes.
Okay. At this point, I would say, does the board want to ask questions first, or would you have one of the Mr. Palermo's ask questions?
I have a question. How many units are in that building altogether?
Yeah. I think there's six.
Six? And the other 2 units have correct ventilation, there's no issues with them? They are okay or they're not okay? The other ones?
I believe we were just looking at 4 of them.
So the other 2 do have the right ventilation, proper ventilation?
Well,
Do you know?
I do not know that, and we did not look at the other 2.
Okay.
Any other questions from?
Did you say the 4 apartments have bathroom windows, or, but I thought you said they didn't have access to the outside?
Hold on, just one at a time would just make it easier.
I do not know the answer to that.
Okay. First of all, just for procedural purposes.
Yes.
Does one of Mr. Palermo's have a question or questions?
Well,
Maybe you can come up to the podium so everyone can hear you. And then Scott, I just ask you to stay right there in case you have to go back.
thank you. Well, I want to kind of give you a little bit of background. This building is over 100 years old.
Okay, wait. We're here for questioning Mr. Heisenreiter?
Oh, well,
Are
no,
you-
not
Yeah, if you're
really.
making more of like an argument or defense, I would maybe wait until all the city employees, and
That's
then maybe you could address everything at the same time.
That
Would
works.
that be, okay. So then maybe, so I'd have Mr. Heisenreiter sit down, and then maybe have Mindy Keel come up. Is that okay with the board? Just,
It's fine.
okay. Okay, Mindy, why don't you, again, you work for the city of Erie?
Yes, I am a
You're a
code enforcement officer.
Okay. And you were one of the individuals who inspected this building on June 18th?
Correct.
And so you were able, did a visual and you saw everything that was already been talked about?
Correct.
Could you, there was a question about whether there was an outside vent or windows, some sort of access to the 4 of the apartments. Can you maybe talk about each one of them specifically, if possible?
I cannot talk about each one of them specifically. When we were there, the property manager for the Palermo's met us so that he could let us into the apartments. We did look at the apartment with the deadbolt in question because there was only 1 unit that did not have the deadbolt. He let us into the basement as well and into the building. He also was the one who informed us that none of the units in the building had windows that opened to the outside or ventilation. He said that they did have windows, but they opened to the inside of the building.
Is that a violation of, like maybe I should rephrase, how should bathroom ventilation systems be vented?
Bathrooms are required to have a ventilation to the outside, whether it be by a window or through a vent.
Okay, so when you say to the outside, you mean to the outside of the building or to the outside of the apartment, such as like a hallway?
The hallways are not considered an appropriate ventilation, so it has to be to the outside of the building.
Okay, now we're talking about today just about apartment 2, 4, 5, and 6, correct?
Correct.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add to what you saw or know about the ventilation system?
I do not know if Scott had touched the electrical box, the one that is connected, the two that are connected to each other, but the one electrical box was hot to the touch. So that would be the only thing I have to add.
Yeah, is that a problem?
Yes,
Why?
because it's showing that it's heating up. It's one of the boxes that the fuses are tripping a lot. It was a complaint from the tenants that they're always having to reset it, because if one tenant is using, say, their microwave and the other one turns another piece of equipment on in their apartment, it's tripping the box. So that is a concern.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So are the tenants responsible for their own utilities? Do they pay their own gas and electric, or is that included in their rent? Do you know?
I do not know that.
Is there anything you'd like to, is there anything you would add to, he described the federal,
No, I think
Boxes?
Scott had mentioned everything else. So.
okay. And then do you have anything to add to the lack of a deadbolt on one of the apartments?
The property manager just told us that the woman in the unit had requested for the deadbolt to be put in place, and it had not been because she had a break-in at one point. So that was shared with us again by the property manager.
Okay.
Is that a code thing? You have to have a deadbolt?
Any questions by the board?
I do have a question. Is it a code requirement for a deadbolt?
That's, yes, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, you have to have.
Okay.
So, and we're only talking about one of the 4 apartments.
Correct. The other ones all did have it.
And do you remember which apartment it was?
It was 4.
Okay, so apartment 4. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. And then you guys are just gonna do like one,
She's wondering about the service.
okay.
Is it
Yeah, why don't you come up to the podium?
this is part of their...
Mindy, just want you to stay like kind of right there.
These are very, very easy.
Okay.
Joe Palermo again. When you did the inspection, did you notice if there were any exterior walls on any of the bathrooms that touched the outside?
I did not notice that.
So did you notice that all of the windows were interior to the building and did not touch, all the bathrooms, and had 0 walls that went to the outside that you could use a window or a basic fan? The only way you could vent it out of that room would be into the building.
Yes, it did. That was what we were told, that the windows.
But when you were in the building, you could see that, obviously, that the bathroom is interior to the building and does not touch an exterior wall anywhere.
No, I know. That's what really kind of bothers me.
Okay. You also said that the property manager had to let you in to the building. Why were you unable to get into the building?
We scheduled an appointment with him to come out and do the inspection.
Did you notice that the both front and back door are security doors to the exterior of the building, so nobody can get in without a key?
He did use a key to let us in.
Okay. Just wanted to make those points right there, that the bathrooms are interior to the building, do not have exterior walls, and the building itself has security doors, both front and back.
Okay. Any questions for Mr., well, no, just wait, wait. Because you guys can talk after we're done. Let's call the last city witness, Mr. Don Zauer. Don, can you state your name and what you do with the city?
Donald Sauer, Chief Fire Marshal for the Erie Fire Department.
And how long have you been with the city, and how long have you been in your current position?
27 years with the fire department and 4 years as a fire marshal.
Okay, is it your job, part of your job to to enforce one of the international fire code?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And were you on site to do the inspection that's already been mentioned on June 18th, 2024 at 408 West 8th Street?
Yes.
And could you tell the board what you found or what your findings were?
So the concern for the fire department was the electrical issue. So I didn't go into the apartments to look at ventilation or door locks. That has nothing to do with fire safety. So I didn't go upstairs and look at any of the apartments or anything like that, because mold or a lock does not concern the fire department. The electrical did concern the fire department. So I'd like to read something from National Fire Protection Association 921, which is the guide for fire and explosive investigations. Sorry, I can't really see this here. Sorry. This is Chapter 9, and it's electrical regarding to fires. Chapter 9.9.2.1.1. Whenever electrical current flows through a conductive material, heat will be produced. With proper design and compliance with the codes, wiring systems and devices will have resistance low enough that current-carrying parts and connections should not overheat. Some specific parts, such as lamp filaments, heating elements, are designed to become very hot. However, when properly designed and manufactured, and when used according to direction, those parts should not cause fires. Now, the Federal Pacific boxes that we talked about that are in the basement that were connected together were hot. We touched them and we could feel that they were physically hot. Also, Federal Pacific was put out of business because so many of their electric panels were failing and causing structure fires in houses.
Okay. I don't have any. Is there any questions from the board?
Okay.
Any questions by one of the planners? Okay.
So you said you went down and you looked at all the boxes. Were all the boxes hot?
No,
So just some of the boxes were hot?
boxes that were married together.
Did it look to you as though those boxes had been replaced any time recently, or are they old?
No, they were pretty old.
So we have owned the building for maybe 25 years-ish, I would say. Would you guess that they had been replaced in the last 25 years?
I couldn't confirm if they were or not, but they were older than more recent.
But you would absolutely believe that they could have been there for
They could
at
have been,
least
yeah,
25
yeah,
years?
it could have been, yes.
Okay.
I would definitely say that they could be that old, but I can't confirm.
And
for
do
sure.
you know if the fire department has ever been called there for a fire for any of the electrical reasons?
Not in the last 4 years since I've been a fire investigator, no.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions to follow up with that?
I think from the records, when I looked up, you guys bought it in 1994. Does that sound correct? Okay.
Okay, I would say, so do one of you want to talk on behalf of Palermo?
He's doing pretty good, but I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Well, like I started to say, is that this building's 100 years old. We've owned it for 30 years and have made no changes. So I know that when you go to the city and you make changes, you've got to upgrade the different codes. We've never done any of that. And in 30 years, there's never been an issue. So let's start with the ventilation. These windows in the bathrooms, which your folks have already said they're there, are open to a unheated, ventilated back stairwell. Now there's a main stairwell and a back stairwell. So these bathrooms are ventilated, and they're ventilated to a large open space that's 3 stories high, and it's ventilated. We have owned the building for 30 years and never had mold. So I don't think we're getting mold today, and we didn't have mold yesterday. The fact that we have had many inspections by BIU in the city, and it's always passed. Then all of a sudden, subsequent, it doesn't pass. That doesn't sound right to me, since we have made no changes. So on the issue with the deadbolt, landlords and keys are a big problem. I don't see a huge issue installing one deadbolt. That's not the big problem. But like my son said, it's a security building. You can't get into the building. They couldn't get into the building until the property manager opened the main door, and all the apartments are off a hallway inside the building. We were told that when the building was originally wired, there might have been a crossover from one unit to another. How we solved that is we said to that tenant, we'll include the electric in your rent, so you don't have to pay the electric. We'll add X dollars to your rent. We pay the rent. The issue with the box being warm, it's a violation of their lease to use window air conditioners. The only apartments we've ever had in that building that have had issues with the service are the ones who illegally hooked up window air conditioners. It's an old building, you can't use those, and it's a violation of their lease. Other than that, we've never had any problem with these services. So it's our contention that if there is a crossover, and we had our electrician go down and look at it, we pay the electric in that apartment. We don't believe there's no mold, there's no evidence of mold. You never heard there was actually evidence of mold. And there is a window in the bathroom, and it was built this way to an open 3-story tower. The only issue I see that we would agree with is we could put a deadbolt on one unit, but it is a security building. And that's it. I mean, unless you don't even want one of us to talk,
Well,
but
I prefer just to keep it simple. I mean, is there something that,
that's about all I had to say. I don't know if you wanted to, did anything to that? No?
Yeah.
I mean, so are there any questions about this? The main thing is we have not changed anything in that building for 30 years, and they passed many inspections, and now, and the electrical issue, and that's a serious thing. We take that serious, but it's only because they overload the system with these window air conditioners.
Well, I just have one thing to say. If this building you haven't done anything to in 30 years, it doesn't owe you anything.
I don't think
What
that's
would
something
be
to be
wrong
proud of.
with a safety issue in a hot box? I mean, wouldn't it benefit you to put a couple bucks into it, to put a halfway decent services? I mean, those boxes aren't that much money.
Well, first of all, my point that we didn't change anything, I think with the city, when you go in and start making changes, you're then subject to upgrading the entire building to the current codes. That was the point of that we haven't done that, okay?
That's not the way I took it. I took it like you haven't done anything to the place in 30 years, and I would think that it's been brought to your attention that you potentially have a problem, that you should take care of it, especially for your tenants.
I don't disagree with you, except one thing. The only time these boxes have ever blown fuses is when they hook up air conditioners illegally.
There is one other thing there as well. The rents in this apartment building are half the market value. We are renting these way undervalued because the city of Erie is in desperate need of units of this amount. These are 2 bedrooms, off-street parking, heat-included units with security doors.
I
They are very
understand
underpriced.
that, but you're asking
If we were to
us-
have to go through and change all the services out, that would really increase the costs, and then the rents go up. And we are trying to prevent that. We're trying to offer a service to the city and saying that we have a place, a safe place, where you can go and you can live with your heat included, and that's the service, that's the trade-off there.
What's
Now,
the
if
rent?
we believed,
What is the rent that the people pay?
off the top of my head, I don't know, I think it's like $750, somewhere like that.
And that includes their utilities?
That includes the heat.
Just the heat?
And-
They
Oh, you
pay
know,
water,
actually,
trash,
I
and
think
sewer, they pay
It
electric?
could be, it includes water, sewer, trash as well, yes,
And in this particular unit, the electric.
yes.
But
That is the difference
but
there, is it would raise everything. It would raise the cost of the rent, it would raise everything in that building, and that's what we're trying to prevent. If we thought there was a serious issue there, we would attack it, but it's been 30 years, same exact thing.
I'm not gonna lose sleep over a deadbolt. I'm not gonna lose sleep over potentially a little bit of mold. But if I wake up someday and there's a fire in that building because it was electrical, I'm gonna have a hard time.
I understand
I gotta
that.
be real honest with you.
The only point I want to make is the only time we've had any issue with that is when window air conditioners, which are not allowed, are hooked up, because that puts a stress on the system. There are other units in those buildings that had no problem. So, and these are not the only older buildings we've owned in the city, and we've had to make this a part of our leases for buildings like these that are that old. So if the tenant does not use the window air conditioning, it was June, I think, when they were there, there would be no issue. And that's all I can tell you about that. Now, the fact that they're crossed over, we would not hold the tenant then responsible if one of their circuits went to another unit. And it would have been wired like that originally.
What about space heaters in the winter? I mean, I know a lot of
No
my
space
tenants use
heaters either.
space
These
heaters.
older buildings cannot,
Well, no, I know when you say they're not allowed, but they can go to Walmart and buy one, and you don't know about it until there's a fire.
But that could happen anywhere.
Sure,
Well-
no, but I get it.
well, we've owned that building 30 years, and we've never had that issue. We've never had a fire in that building.
I get it, but it takes one time. You know what I mean? I'm kind of with these guys. And it's not just, I don't know, and again, I don't know how much comments are necessary or allowed, but they said I'm in charge now, so I guess I can say whatever I want.
Yeah, I got that.
But, no, and I'm not like that. But I kind of agree. I mean, I wouldn't brag about the fact that I owned something for 30 years and didn't do any improvements. I mean, I'm a landlord too. I certainly don't have a lot of units like that. But, I mean, you're definitely making money off that place. So is it that hard, like a deadbolt? I mean, I have a hole saw. I could put one in $10, you know? I don't think I just don't think any of this is like a huge amount of money. I don't know, but I'm just thinking if it's to keep people safe, like he said, at the end of the day, wouldn't you feel horrible if if
But then
the,
you'd have to rewire half the city of Erie. for that.
We're not talking about half the
I
city.
don't-
no, we're just talking about the one in
your
front
four
of
units.
us, yeah.
I don't know
That's
that
what you're asking us to
I
look
agree
at.
with that statement.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I don't think I agree with that statement. Union Pacific panel boxes have been long known to be, I honestly thought they were outlawed. I didn't think they were allowed to, if an inspector saw that in a house, I thought you had to replace them. As a contractor, that was my policy. Is that the case, or is that not the case? And it's not the case in the city.
It's inspected all the time by BAU, and we've had many buildings with those services, and they
Now they
always
found a
pass.
problem with it. And, you know, if you have overheating, if you have a box getting hot, I understand that any house homeowner can, or a renter can purchase a heater and plug it in, but on that situation, it's even far more detrimental, and it's not the same as every house. I mean, would you want one in your house?
Well, if I leased a unit and was told that the electric service would not support space heaters or air conditioners, I wouldn't hook them up.
Well,
mean,
yeah,
it's in
but
the
you're,
lease.
you're smarter than probably half our tenants.
Well,
I'm
I
not
don't know
trying to be
about that.
mean, but, I mean, that's the
But
truth.
the point is, look, someone up there just said, you know, so you had it for 30 years. Well, first of all, if you own apartments, you understand there's a lot of maintenance in apartments. I'm
Absolutely.
saying we didn't make any changes. That's what we said. We didn't say we don't do maintenance.
No, I
But
didn't see maintenance.
the fact of the matter is, 30 years, nothing's changed. And the only issue we had with these services is when somebody illegally put in window air conditioners. And, you know, if you are a landlord, you understand that people can do things all the time that aren't
Absolutely.
safe. We used to have fireplaces in some of our units. We had to stop doing that because
Yep.
people
Same.
wouldn't. So with regard to the ventilation, it is ventilated. Window is certainly a ventilation, and it goes into a ventilated 3-story chamber. The deadbolt, I don't
But not to fresh air.
well, it's sure, it's ventilated, the outside wall is ventilated in the stair tower, and that's where all the
There's a
windows.
fresh air return in that outside hallway?
Sure, absolutely.
How
And,
hard would it be to run ductwork from the window that's in the hallway to directly to the outside of that? If
well,
that's
it's
an
a
outside
stairway,
wall?
so you'd be cutting off the stair tower.
Well, you go up and out. But
Yeah, go
I
up.
understand.
And so there's that. I mean, I strongly disagree about the electrical. It's been perfectly safe, and the only issue we've had is when people illegally hook up something they're not supposed to do. And, you know, they could do a lot of things that would cause us a problem. What else do we have here? So the deadbolt, the ventilation, and the electrical. Those are the 3 items, I think.
And the only other comment I had, I know you had said like with BIU, it had passed all these other years. I just find with my units, every year they get a little tougher every other year. You know, they let some stuff slide, but now they're like, okay, well, now let's work on this. So I don't know if maybe that's just part of their MO and how they work, but I've had things that I thought, well, hey, that passed 2 years ago, but it's not passing now. So I don't know if that's just what they do, but.
Well, we have not had that experience. Normally, if it's caught and we correct something that is a violation, I mean, we had a lot of units in the city over the years, but I find it difficult to believe this was inspected, and then now all of a sudden it's not any good. And I get the point about the service, electric service overheating. It's a dangerous thing. I don't know that you can do much about that in a building that old if people hook up equipment they're not allowed to do.
Have you gotten estimates at all to have any of that done? If you had the building, if you had to have the whole building rewired and then add the ventilation, did you get any, maybe it would be cost effective with the rate of return to increase the rent by $50 a month or something?
It is my understanding that the only issue with the electrical is that we have 2 boxes intermingled. So I think all we would have to do, and then we'd continue charging the electric, is separate those.
Yeah.
We could do that. And I mean,
Isn't that what the city was asking?
well, we could do that, but how we solved it before was we paid the electric. But here's the issue. Anybody that hooks up illegal equipment, I don't know where that leaves us. But if what we're talking about today is separate those 2 services, we'd agree to that. I mean, if that's what the issue is. And I think that's what we kind of understood, that it was overloaded. Is that what we heard?
I think safety is the biggest concern.
It's okay, I have a couple, just.
Oh, and I have one other comment. As a single woman, I live alone. Just because there are secure doors what if the guy in apartment 2 is a creep, and he watches me come in every night, and knows I live alone, and he can bust in my door because I'm not a deadbolt? I get it, but if there's 6 apartments, and so I would, like, that to me is really important. Even though Joe Public can't get in, you know, the guy in apartment 2 who wants to bust into my apartment in the middle of the night, that's a little creepy.
Okay, I wasn't aware that it's a city code that all apartments have to have deadbolts, but we wouldn't have a problem installing one deadbolt.
Yeah, that's not a big deal.
I just have a couple of questions, and just some follow-up just in general, because I was trying to, one of my questions was the security question that she said, Amy, you have, the other tenants do have access, so she already asked that. I guess my question is if the boxes are warm, and they're Union Pacific, and they're known to cause fire hazards, except in certain circumstances, you probably would want, if you were a tenant, you would want it changed, and as the owner, you would rather deal with changing it than dealing with a fire and an insurance company, and possibly someone getting hurt, I'm assuming.
Certainly, we would never want anybody to get hurt, and again, it is our contention, though, that the only time they overheated is when they used illegal equipment. And I don't know that that would make a difference if they weren't crossed over, but I don't know that.
Right.
But if it just is a matter of separating those two, that one apartment isn't crossed over to the other apartment service, we could do that. But people have to follow the rules. I mean,
Right. Well, without you haven't cited anything like, I guess, specific that like Unit 4 did have an illegal per the lease air conditioning unit or space heater. Is it possible that sometimes just these things wear out?
we have not had that experience in this building. Our building is very similar to it, built around the same time. We own a few buildings about that age, and I don't think it's wearing out. I think it's abusing the system, using the wrong equipment. But again, if the issue is right now that we have one apartment that is got their electric into another apartment's box, we could hire an electrician who could separate that. I don't think that is the reason these boxes got warm. I think it's the equipment they hooked up.
And then my other question, because the purpose of the appeal was that, was the grandfathering in. So I was trying to rummage through, that's why I brought all my books with me to see like what that says. So there is the International Existing Building Code, which kind of applies to buildings, obviously they're built before new codes get set in. And when I'm looking at section 101.4.2, this is buildings previously occupied, which I think that applies to this building. It says the legal occupancy of any building existing on the date of adoption of this code shall be permitted to continue without change, except as is specifically covered in this code, the International Fire Code, or the International Property Maintenance Code, or as deemed necessary by the code official for the general safety and welfare of the occupants and the public. And that's listed as under the applicability. So I do think that grandfathering could apply, but however, once there's, we have the National Fire Code representative, we have the National Property Maintenance Code representative, we have the proper code official from the city who's like, this was brought to our attention because of the BIU inspection, right? So I do think that, and then when you go to, then...
Well, before you move on, I think that refers to imminent risk. This is possible. They're saying maybe it could happen. We don't know. It's been working fine. Maybe you'll have a problem. Maybe you won't. That's a whole, anything could be deemed a risk.
Well, that's what's happened though.
That's what I'm saying. anything at all could be deemed a risk.
Yes, there could be a nuclear explosion and the whole world could be destroyed.
Exactly.
But that's not what we're here for. We're here for 408 West 8th Street, right?
I'm saying this is being unnecessarily called a risk.
But if the box is hot, then we're saying there's an issue.
So we have,
I'm not an electrician, but if my electric box was hot, I'd be calling one.
so we have
Because
six,
it was put in way before the amount of electronics that people use.
Right, but I'm saying
Which
now
is true
people are
everywhere.
using those electronics, so we've got to think ahead and proactively, rather than being reactive, and now we've got a dead kid in apartment 4, let's be
But again,
proactive and fix something.
You're supposing this will happen.
Well, but the
maybe.
box is hot.
It's warm.
So
Yeah,
if a
it's-
dog's
it's not-
growling
it's not
at me,
causing a
I
fire.
think he might bite
I
me.
believe that if it were in imminent danger, that the fire department probably would have shut the building down.
well, that's probably true. But I think the grandfather thing, I think our property manager that filled this out for us was referring back to previous inspections that it was not flagged. So it was already inspected. And I think that was his position.
Okay. I do think that there is some applicability here. I found also in the International property maintenance code, just because I was trying, again, because it's not something I knew about, before today. But there's section 403.2 dealing with bathrooms and toilet rooms. And it says every bathroom and toilet room shall comply with the ventilation requirements for habitable spaces as required under section 403.1, except that a window should not be required in such spaces equipped with mechanical ventilation system. Air exhausted by a mechanical ventilation system from a bathroom or toilet room shall discharge to the outdoors and shall not be recirculated. So I was trying to, I think that sort of applies, so the ventilation thing.
Well, we have a ventilated chamber for an interior room with a bathroom, with a window that vents into that ventilated area. It's ventilated. And there's been no mold, we know, for 30 years, and I'm guessing for the 70 years before that.
I know, but BIU did an inspection, right? They said, okay, this doesn't pass. They gave it to the city people, and the city people said, this doesn't match what we have here. So,
And obviously, we think they're wrong because it is a
Right.
bathroom window that is ventilated into an open chamber that is ventilated, that has fresh air.
Well,
But it says it can't be recirculated.
but it also says it needs to be vented to the outside of the building.
Well, that is the ventilation to the three-story chamber is ventilated to the outside. That gets fresh air. I mean, it doesn't,
Well-
it's the idea of an air exchange, am I correct? So,
The idea is, the way I was reading it, very straightforward, was that it goes from the bathroom to the outside, not from the
Exactly
bathroom to an inner chamber, then to the outside.
the idea is to have fresh air,
Okay,
and it
well,
has that.
As the lawyer, right, I don't have, I'm
Okay.
not the person, but maybe I'd ask either Scott or Mindy, maybe you can comment on what is the accurate interpretation.
I just got this thrown on me.
I believe the code says to the exterior of the building, not to a hallway. You don't want to ventilate bathroom gases into a common hallway. And the electric, those panels are supposed to be separated. And just because it's not an air conditioner, it could be two people having microwaves going or the heater, and it's not our responsibility to police your tenants as anybody else can police their own tenants. But if two people have portable heaters and they're on a combined panel in the basement and it's already getting hot, they do need separated.
So let me ask you this. Would the city be satisfied if we had a licensed electrician make sure those were separated? Rather than what we did is just include the electric with, but if we had a licensed electrician separate them so they're separate.
The way I would respond to that is that, so as the city, I would abide by whatever they approve, right? Again, because I'm not, so if you have a licensed electrician come in and fixes it, that's fine. But I think for purposes of this being a legal proceeding and a hearing, is there anything new that you'd like to offer?
No, I think I've said everything.
Okay, now I'll ask Mr. Palermo, I think the third.
Yeah.
Do you have anything new? And then I would just ask real quick if any of the city employees have anything new that hasn't already been stated or restated. Okay, so then what I would say is that you guys have made, everyone's position I think has been made fairly clear to the board. Does the board have any other questions?
no.
I don't.
Okay, so then at this point, we would close the evidentiary record, no more testimony, no more questioning, and then the board then can decide.
I think we're ready to call for a vote.
Okay, so then I would ask, everyone's ready to call for a vote, so I think,
John, you good?
yeah, Christie, I think you would.
Yes.
Christie, why don't you call the individual member and go with the chairperson last, is how
Sure.
other boards do it. And I guess the question, to make sure we know what we're voting on, so the appeal was whether the city, I guess, proved that there were safety concerns or violations for this apartment. So if you, whether they proved it or not. So if you vote yes, you're saying that you believe that there is a ventilation issue, there's a deadbolt issue, and that there's an electrical issue.
Okay.
And I guess I would ask a question.
Wait,
We're
let me
gonna vote
just
on those-
clarify, you're saying you vote yes to that?
Yeah, that's
We're
how I
Wouldn't we
denying
vote
the
no
appeal.
to that?
Well, they filed the appeal, so you can do it the other way too. You can say their appeal is denied, So you would say, is that what you want to say?
Yeah,
Okay,
do it
let's do it
that
that
way.
way. So whether the board would like to either grant or deny the Palermo's appeal. Does that make sense with you guys as well? Does that make sense with you guys? Okay. So then, Christie, I think you call the individual person, and then they could say either grant the appeal or deny the appeal. If you deny the appeal, you're siding with the city. If you're granting the appeal, you're siding with Palermo.
Mr. Zimmerman,
I deny the appeal.
Ms. Thompson,
I deny the appeal.
Mr. Villa,
Deny.
and Mr. McCormick.
Denied.
And so, it's a 4-0 vote to deny the appeal? Okay. So then I think at that point, is there anything else on the agenda?
Can I ask you a question about this resolution?
Yeah, I think after this is all done, I think we'll talk with the city people. And I can talk with you too. But I think we're just trying to wrap up the actual hearing. So I think you would need a motion, if there's no other business, it'd be a motion to adjourn with the first and the second.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Okay, and you all in yay?
Yay.
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 Okay, I believe there's a 4-0 vote to adjourn, so that would, you want the gavel?
Oh.
Okay, this hearing is adjourned